Hello everyone, Ace here, and today I've decided to have yet another look at some video game history, and in the process answer the question, what exactly made SWAT 4 great?
Stack it up. Those hands in the air! Contact. We have suspect contact. Go! Time to move! Hands in the air! Here they come! Run! Reaching with C2, sir.
This is Central BCC. Barricade hostage situation.
On your knees! Moving clear. Going ready. Hands in the air! Yeah, moving now. Don't show your hands! Go! Police, hands up now!
Released all the way back in 2005 exclusively for the PC as part of the SWAT franchise, itself being a spin-off of the Police Quest franchise, which itself happened to be part of the larger Sierra Online universe of point-and-click adventure games that just so happened to also include the likes of Leisure Suit Larry, Space Quest, and of course King's Quest. It is safe to say that SWAT 4 and the SWAT franchise in general has some of the most bizarre pedigree and lineage you will ever see when it comes to first-person shooter games, especially when you consider the fact that SWAT 1 and SWAT 2 were not first-person shooters at all. SWAT 1 being a bizarre FMV game that closest resembles a point-and-click adventure game, and with SWAT 2 being more of an isometric, real-time tactics game. It wasn't until SWAT 3 that the groundwork was laid for what the SWAT series itself would truly be known for, tactical shooter gameplay from the perspective of a SWAT officer. SWAT 3 is definitely a game worth talking about in its own right someday, but today we are talking about SWAT 4, a game that is still considered one of the go-to options when it comes to police-themed tactical shooters, with even its competition essentially being heavily inspired by SWAT 4 in particular. But to understand why this is the case, let's move on to the various things that helped make SWAT 4 great. And the first thing that I have to bring up with regards to what exactly helped make SWAT 4 great is that it is a massive refinement of the mechanics from SWAT 3. One of the most notable and important refinements being how much easier they made it to command your SWAT team. The command wheel, for example, makes it extremely easy to issue out exactly what order you want to give by simply holding down the right mouse button, selecting the specific option, and then releasing the right mouse button. But let's say time is a little bit more sensitive and you have a very specific command in mind. Well, there's also a context-sensitive quick command you can give as well, allowing you to instantly order your officers to secure a suspect, defuse a bomb, regroup on you, move and clear a room, etc. This isn't to say that there isn't some certain degree of charm and intuitiveness to the SWAT 3 command system, but here we have a massive overhaul that, once you get the hang of it, is by and large a general improvement in most cases. So that is one thing that most certainly helped make SWAT 4 great. Another thing I should cover relatively early on as to what exactly made SWAT 4 great, though, has to be the theme of it. For those who are not aware, police-themed tactical shooters have a sort of reputation these days for being rather bleak and grim, and it is ultimately SWAT 4 that truly delved into that nature. In a lot of respects, SWAT 4 is actually more bleak than most war-themed games, with the Fairfax residents and Children of Tyrone Tenement being two of the more infamous examples, including not just a fair number of horror elements, but as well as the players stumbling upon some true atrocities. And longtime fans of tactical shooters will no doubt know that you're already going to be tense in these situations anyways, because even the weakest of enemies is a substantial threat and can very quickly bring your entire mission run to an end, which is to say that horror elements absolutely do mesh with the genre of tactical shooters. So it's no wonder that games such as Ready or Not would copy the SWAT 4 formula in that regard. It also, unfortunately, does fit the theme of police work quite accurately. Like it or not, this sort of stuff does actually happen, and it is absolutely absolutely something that law enforcement officers have to deal with. So again, it makes perfect sense for SWAT-themed tactical shooters to have those kinds of missions. But I believe now's a good time to move on to another thing that helped make the game great as well. As you may have noticed, I am in fact not playing the vanilla SWAT 4 experience. I'm not even playing with just the expansion pack either. I am in fact using mods. And yes, the next thing that helped make SWAT 4 great is the modding scene. Admittedly, the modding scene for SWAT 4 isn't quite as robust as games such as, for example, Doom or Half-Life 2, but it is a case of quality over quantity in the case of SWAT 4, with easily the most famous mod for SWAT 4 being SWAT 4 Elite Force, a major overhaul that adds a whole bunch of new weapons as well as mechanics. Things like iron sight aiming, for example, or turning less lethal weapons into actually being less lethal rather than non-lethal, meaning that you have to be careful in how you utilize them. There's also the whole bulk and weight mechanics, being another limiting factor in what you can take before your equipment simply weighs too much or takes up too much space. So needless to say, SWAT 4 Elite Force is an incredible mod in its own right, and I will be getting back to it a little bit more later down the line, but it's also such an impressive mod that it has resulted in other mods being built upon it. For example, SWAT 4 Elite Force First Responders, which adds even more features and mechanics to the game, such as ballistic shields and battering rams. In fact, even that mod has its own mod built upon it as well. In that case, SWAT 4 Elite Force First Responders Tactical Edition, adding even more features to the game, such as shotguns that shoot tasers at people. There are other mods I can talk about at this stage, but I believe you get the point that SWAT 4 is definitely another game that was made great in part thanks to the modding scene. And with that mentioned though, I do believe now's a good time to go back to one of those mods, because there is more to that particular mod to discuss, and it does lead me to another thing that helped make SWAT 4 great. For you see, the creator of the SWAT 4 Elite Force mod would go on to later help develop Ready or Not, the game that is generally considered the most famous successor to the SWAT franchise. So once again, the legacy of SWAT 4 and its mods cannot be understated in terms of the impact it had when it comes to police-themed tactical shooters. To summarize, SWAT 4 is a game that at its core took the formula set by titles such as SWAT 3, as well as the original Rainbow Six, polished and refined those concepts in ways that are still the gold standard for that particular subgenre, essentially established the dark theme and grim horror elements that police-themed tactical shooters are known for, boasts a modding community that has created some extremely high-quality mods, allowing the game to stay relevant even today, and on top of all of that, at least one example can be seen of one of the mod teams being directly involved in the development of the game most often considered the spiritual successor to SWAT 4. With all of this in mind, this has been Ace, and I hope you'll agree when I say that SWAT 4 is great.